Alrighty, good morning. So, I wanted to touch base on something I've already talked about before, but it's been a few years since. So, back when I was a pastor, I talked about relationships quite often. And I brought up the book, Men Like Waffles, Women Like Spaghetti, because it's a great book that talks about the differences of men and women and how they think, which is very important. But I also want to discuss my relationships. So, I was the one who was the most serious in the relationship. I made all the plans, the arrangements. I was the one who tried my best to convey my feelings and how far I was willing to go. The issue was the women I was talking to and hanging out with, they weren't that type. They were very selfish, self centered, and believed that they were never the problem. So I could not really talk to them about things. I couldn't really date them because they weren't marriage material. So in the end, it was just simply accepting the fact I didn't have a lot of women to choose from. I mean, I did, but not regards to marriage. The quantity outweighed the quality, I should say that. So trying to find the right one was very difficult for me, and finding one that would want me is also very difficult because I have a lifestyle that I enjoy. I need somebody to understand that and embrace it with me. So that was always a challenge. Uh, the girls I was around did not understand martial arts. They did not understand self-defense. They did not understand the mindset of a combatant. They didn't understand the mindset of a warrior. They didn't understand the mindset of the way I was raised to have. And having friends was also a challenge because when they met my parents, they believed I was brainwashed. And it's like, it's lost on you then. I met so many guys who I would get along with or I wouldn't. And if I didn't get along with them, it's because they wanted me to be like them. And they didn't believe the stories I would talk about until we would be out of church or we would be someplace together where circumstance would happen and they would see me in action. And then it was, oh wow, you're the real deal. You're exactly what you said you were. I can't relate to you. And they started feeling bad about themselves, which created jealousy and envy and animosity. And we weren't very close anymore. So, when it comes to guys, it was insecurity that bothered them the most. And that's why I can't stand insecure men. Women, on the other hand, were totally different. They would love and also hate these aspects of me because they loved that I didn't take any um, tolerance. I had a no tolerance policy. They loved that. They loved that I didn't let things slide. I didn't let just anybody get away with stuff. They loved that about me. But what they didn't like was that it also affected them too. See, they wanted me to have double standards, and I didn't have that. They wanted me to treat them differently than everybody else, and I don't do that. I treat everybody the same, unless we're dating or, we're married, because then it's a little bit more different. But I don't play favorites. I'm not going to treat them differently because they're my wife or girlfriend. Um, you're with me for a reason. You're with me and you understood why you're with me. So I don't have that issue. They did. And a big issue for women as I was growing up was they couldn't handle the competition. there was always a lot of girls around me. It didn't matter if I was interested or not. The fact that I always had options is how they saw it. And so it created a lot of problems. Even if we weren't dating, we're just close friends. They did not like other girls knowing me. So it was a troublesome time when it comes to drama. And the girls I knew created the drama. That's why I don't want drama in my life. That's why I was happier being single. I was happier choosing my sanity because I can control the amount of drama I let into my life, which is why I limited my interaction with online stuff, except for when I was doing the 10 years of social experiments, which I kind of conduct still, but not as much as I used to. Um, it just hurt once I got the results I was looking for, the end results. It just discouraged me a lot about women. Guys, nothing surprising about guys, really. I mean, it's all the same. Um, you got your good guys, you got your bad guys, and everything they've done, it's been done before. But these women I was encountering were just ones I've not heard of before. I mean, how many women do you know when you're being honest about your life and you're talking about things, just try and discredit it all the time? That's not normal. Or try and paint you have to be the problem when it's circumstances that were out of your control. So they try to shift it to when you're explaining a situation and you're explaining your experience with the situation, they tend to say that you're trying to be the victim, or they try and say that you're being a victim, and it's just like, I'm not talking like a victim. I'm explaining something in thorough detail about how something happened and why it happened. I mean, that would be like a cop or a fireman discussing something that they experienced while on the job. About how this led to this explosion or this led to this crime, and you got a woman telling them, well, you're being the victim. No, I'm describing how an event happened, how it occurred. That's all I'm doing. So I felt very discouraged. I felt like there was no real chance that you would meet someone normal. But then I also realized that the people online are online all the time, and they're always doing this kind of stuff because they don't have a life in the real world, because the real world can't tolerate them. They don't understand how someone can be so stupid. Or then you learn about how somebody you don't get along with online is a manager, and it makes sense. So it's just stupid. But my experience with girls don't like to hear the truth. They don't like to hear reality. They don't like to hear a man's perspective. And I found that out in my teen years over just simple conversations. We were discussing the Bible at a youth retreat kind of thing at a college campus, and it was awesome. There was an event going on at the college campus, and youth groups from around the states. I had some from Washington, some from this state. I'm sure there's other states that came over, but it was really interesting when you're sitting with a bunch of girls and their group, and you're discussing the Bible, and you're discussing things, or you're making a blonde joke because one of them's a blonde, and she takes offense to it, and it's just like, it's just a joke. Now, granted, I don't know these people. I'm just being myself, and I learned a lot in that conversation about these people. And I was being honest, talking about something about Adam and Eve or about her behavior to a girl that knew her, and she asked me, "Do you want to be right and honest, or do you want to sit next to a pretty girl?" And immediately I noticed the challenge that arose. I immediately saw the flag, and this is where I decided I want to be right. I want to be honest. I want to be true to myself. So I saw the warning sign of what example do you want to set here? What kind of standard? So I said what I said. It ended the conversation with this girl. And I was wearing my leather jacket, and I had a Coke bottle in my hand, and we were talking. She tore up my number, which is not a surprise, that's fine. But in the conversation, one of the guys came over, and he was like, "Okay, I hear what you guys are talking about, but I don't like how women believe that all men are pigs." And so that started a different conversation. And so what happened is after it, and I saw the challenge there, and I did what I thought was right. That was enough for her to tear up my number, and I looked her straight in the eyes, and I told her, "I don't need anybody. I'm fine with being a loner." And I walked off. And the guy that was talking about, men are not all pigs, he turned and said, "Now that's a greaser. That's a guy with confidence." And I threw the bottle up in the air, and then I caught it when it came down as I'm walking away. Because I'm not going to let some whiny chick dictate how things are going to play out. I'm the one that started the conversation. I'm the one that made a joke that she took offense to, which tells me all I need to know. If you get offended over a joke, I can only imagine how you're going to be offended by things that happen in the real world that you can't control. So, looking back at that, I love that moment. I do. And later on, I went back looking for my number that was torn up because I didn't want her prank calling me later on. But yeah, it was nice. It was great. My youth group got a laugh out of it. My youth leader, the youth pastor there, he was laughing, So he explained to me, not everybody that comes to these things are Christians. So they may not understand what you understand. And I said, oh, that would make sense. Yeah, because they had no clue what I was talking about. So a lot of people will come to these things for social life because all their friends are going. They're not going to go because they feel led to go there by Christ. So that was enlightening for me to understand, and it was funny. Oh, my youth group was laughing about it. And he encouraged me to go back and apologize that maybe something I said didn't come out right or whatever. And I'm like, okay, yeah. Now that I think about how she didn't understand what I was talking about, sure. So I went back looking for her, and she was wearing a red sweatshirt, so I thought that was her. So she was up on this. So what you had this ramp on a railing that would go up to this building. And instead of taking that way, I decided to quickly jump on this railing that's on the ground and jump up to the brick wall that had the railing on top for the ramp. And I grabbed that and I climbed on up. And I tapped on the shoulder and I said, "I need to talk to you." And she turned around and it wasn't her. But everybody was surprised, and I said, "Wrong sweater." And I jumped off, tucked and rolled away. And everybody was making noises and shocked and everything. They thought that was really cool. Um, but I went looking for her and I found her. You know, I want to apologize that maybe what I said was a little too rough. And one of her guy friends puts his arm around me and tells me, well, you know, when the cat's out of the bag, it's a little too late to put it back in, you know. And I said, well, not for me. And they all made fun of me. They're like, oh, because I'm special. And I said, well, I am. If you give me a chance to prove it, you know, you'll see that what I say will happen. It didn't happen that way, though. But again, they're from Washington, which explains a lot. Explains a whole lot. Um, I didn't get to make amends, which is fine, but I always have those memories, and it's funny. Um, Later that night, though, I was walking and I came across the girl I was talking to, who asked me that question: do you want to be true and honest, or do you want to be honest and right, or do you want to sit next to a pretty girl? And she pulls me aside. We start talking as we walk, and she loved my style. I had a bracelet on, leather bracelet with a metal star. Later on, that bracelet would fall apart, and I used the metal star, and I would sew that to a trench coat. But, or my friend sewed it to my trench coat for me. He did a phenomenal job too. Um, but I was wearing that, blue jeans, I think it was a black t-shirt, and high tops. And we were talking, and I was 17 at the time. And oh, it was so much fun. You know, she's like, I know her. She can be a little too much and self-absorbed and etc. So we're talking about this issue, and I talked about what I was talking about. She goes, "That's an interesting conversation topic." And so one of these goth girls came walking over, and she called her over. So I got to meet one of her friends, and so she had questions. You know, what do you think about this guy? And she's like, I like him, I like his style. He goes, what would you want to do with him? And she says, honestly, take him home with me, listen to loud music in my room, to piss off my parents. And okay, alright. It's not my scene, but I totally get it, and I totally would. Yeah. So she was talking about the conversation beforehand, and the goth chick rolls her eyes, and she's just like, look, if she can't take a joke, she can't take a joke, you know. As for the biblical perspective, you know, yeah, I understand it, but you know, a lot of people don't think like that. A lot of people don't want to go back to Adam and Eve and have that kind of conversation about how sin entered the world. And we stay talking for a good 15 minutes or so, and then they were gonna go change for the rest of the event that night, and asked me if I want to come with them. And I said, no, I'm gonna do something else. Now, when I tell that side of the story, a lot of guys are like, what? That was your chance, man. I'm like, no, I don't know these girls. That's my chance to get falsely accused or to have something else happen, or maybe the goth chick be too forceful. Not my problem. I like that kind of thing. I like an aggressive woman, but I wasn't gonna do that in a Christian resort or a Christian event. That didn't seem right to me. So, no. And the goth chick was beautiful. I really liked her. She was great. But no, I wasn't gonna put myself in a position where something bad could happen. That's been my generalized way of doing something. Is I think of the outcome. I think, is it worth it? And that would not have been worth it to me. So, that was a fun story. I haven't really talked about for a while, so I felt like sharing that. Um, then I want to talk about discussing this topic as a pastor. So, when I talked about relationships as a pastor, I talked about why it's important to set boundaries early on. First date, second date, that kind of thing. I believe in being who I am, and that means that you get exactly what you see. I put everything on the table. Sure, there's some mystery that gets lost and all that, but I'm not going to tell you everything. I'm just going to set down the ground rules and try and build that foundation with you. That's the goal. Um, Women always saw me as an intense person, which, yeah, I am. But that's because I'm very passionate about how I live my life. I'm very passionate about my hobbies and what I want to do for the rest of my life. No one else had that kind of drive. They all just kind of were like, well, we'll get a job and work for the rest of our lives. I'm like, I want to get a job and do something that makes me happy. I want to be happy doing what I'm doing for money. And that's why I couldn't find a job I liked so much, because of how it's ran. But I believe it was important to set boundaries. I believe it was very important to be honest so the girl knows what she's getting herself into by being my friend, girlfriend, and then eventually wife. Well, the issue was because parents and adults gave me such a bad reputation early on that it carried over to girls I hung out with, guys I hung out with, and because you are who you hang out with, kind of thing. And so later on, I pushed everybody away. I didn't want them to be suffering because of what people think about me. I could make it alone. So that's what I did. And no one really argued with me. They didn't really tell me, no, we're not going to do that. No, you're not going to walk alone. They allowed it, which kind of spoke more about the volume of character that they had. So they kind of failed that test. I mean, had they have said, yeah, we're your friends and we're going to stay by you and you're not going to decide if we hang out with you or not. We made that decision. That would have been really neat. I remember I was mad about what my ex said one day at church. I was out with a stick in the yard, beating down blackberry bushes. I hate those things. And a friend of mine comes over and she's like, "Hey, David, you want to come hang out with some friends? We're all going to get together." And I'm just like, "What makes you think we're going to be friends in 5 years?" She goes, "Oh, okay." And she walks away. Failing the test. Failing. Epically. Yeah, it's a little bit of a cold thing to say, but at the same time, I'm thinking, I know what happens after high school. How many of these people are real? How many people are going to be like me and want a relationship after high school? So that's what I said. That's what happened. But what I was waiting for was that, well, I'm your friend, and we're going to get together, and I want you to be there. That's what I was looking for. That's what I wanted to hear. Because that would make sense of proving why she's my friend. So I didn't get that, and that showed me more about her character than a pointless conversation would have. So, in the end, no, none of us are friends 5 years later. I mean, I could call up one guy and it'd be like nothing ever happened, but, you know, we have our own lives to live. Things happened, and I'm not happy with the way that it played out because they chose to prioritize other things over our friendship. I didn't do that, but at the same time, when you're invested in your friends as much as I was, and you throw your friend his 16th birthday party because his parents don't acknowledge birthdays, and you feel really good because you did something good for that person, and the entire day you're feeling like he's determined not to have a good time. You're feeling like he's determined to not be happy on his birthday. And then it changes up to years later, he doesn't remember you did that for him. So, relationships, friendships, I just didn't see the point, honestly. They didn't value me. I overly valued them. And in the end, I just felt alone, unappreciative, or unappreciated, and unwanted. So I just stopped looking for friends. I stopped putting myself out there. Um, had a few jobs where I met some nice people. We talked, and we thought about having a friendship outside of work, but later on it didn't happen. I met one friend working at Dick's Sporting Goods, one friend, and we're still friends today. And I'm glad I met him. Um, he's a great guy. We we respect each other. The way our relationship is, our friendship is we don't always agree on things, and that's fine. But the things we don't agree on, we just don't talk about. Um, are there things he does that annoy me? Yes. Is it a big deal? No. Why? Because the guy's got an amazing heart. The guy's got an amazing personality, and I really enjoy having him around. And my friends were annoying to some degree. I mean, not to the point where they were trying to be annoying or they did things that irritated me. It was just lack of personality for the most part. This guy's got a lot of personality. He's great. And we can say wild things and not get offended. It's just that kind of thing. And we have great conversations, great philosophical conversations. We have great, awesome conversations about things that we enjoy and things that puzzle us. So, he's a great friend in my opinion. I mean, he's the only friend that I had that paid me back. And only friend that I could actually help out at that time the way I did. Something else came to mind, and I'll talk about that in the next video. But yeah, I just wanted to jump on here and talk about some old stories that were flooding my brain again, and discuss some relationships. But yeah, definitely put down ground rules and boundaries, and see what happens. And test the strength of your relationship, your resolve. Test your partner, your friends. See what kind of character they have. And mind you, the test has to be fair. It has to be one that they can pass easily. I see a lot of these tests being done, these trends about boyfriend, girlfriend cheating and stuff, and they kind of lose their momentum after a while, because sometimes they're done correctly, sometimes they're done incorrectly, and the outcome is just, I think it could have been done better, but that's just my opinion. So, yeah, I feel like doing another relationship video because I do miss talking about relationships. I do miss talking about communication within the relationship, and I miss talking about why it's important. Now, before I quit this video, something else came to mind, and that was I had this girl, and she was suicidal, and she was having issues, and she just felt really down all the time. And so I'm like, hey, I'll hang out with you. We'll talk. Well, I was 17, she was 14. And she had self-esteem issues, I didn't. And so I was kind of helping her out with some stuff and making her feel better about herself, boosting her self-confidence a bit. And one day, I get a message. We were talking. At this point, she'd moved. And she was not liking the move idea because she loses all her friends and everything because she's moving to a different part of town. Down to like Bend or Redmond, which a lot of people move down there. So I'm not surprised. But her reason for being suicidal was her parents. She didn't feel like they understood her or talked to her much or acknowledged her existence. And that's common. I heard about those kind of stories before. So, we were talking when she messaged me, and then we called and talked for a little bit longer, and then she accuses me of only being nice to her because I wanted sex. And it's like, you're not all that, chick. You really think with all the other girls I know that I'm going after a 14-year-old girl who's flat and has all these different issues? No. No. I'm looking for girlfriend material. I'm looking for marriage material. I ain't looking for a fling. Never was. And I never gave that impression either. So, hearing that deeply hurt. It's like, I was legitimately being nice to you because how bad your life was. I was legitimately trying to help you because how bad your life was. I was legitimately trying to help you because I care. Now I don't. So, that's why women take L's. Because they think that once they get this confidence boost, that every guy wants them. No. And then she throws these different grape scenarios, and I'm like, no. Now, I would say the actual word, but who knows how YouTube would take that. I don't believe in the censorship crap, but I have to say certain things so I don't get demonetized or whatever. So, yeah, just when she went down that rabbit hole, I just lost all interest. And I lost all interest as well when she made that accusation, but no, you're way down. You're in Southern Oregon, basically, or near Southern Oregon. I'm up here. What makes you think I wanted that from you? So no, it made no sense to me. I didn't lead her on. I didn't give her anything to go off of. I was just being polite, nice, and listening to her, because no one did. So that's how she took it. No. So that set me up to have the idea that once I turned 18, I cut all communication from women. All of them. I kicked them all to the curb. Because I was not going to have a false allegation against me to where I have to go to jail or then prison because some chick didn't like me. So, no. After that, I just lost all interest in women, too. Knowing the kind of scummy things they could do, even to me, pass. So yeah, that's where I'll end the video here. Thank you for watching, and this one was more fun for me to do because it brought back a lot of memories. So, hope you enjoy it.